Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to our feature partner series of the Citrix Ready Podcast, where we explore the technology integrations that Citrix has with its partners. And in this series, I invite guests from Citrix and their partners to spend a little time with me and share how they're solving real-world problems for businesses, not just on their own, but by working together. And today, I learn how Citrix and Apps2Digital have built a partnership that is solving problems for businesses at a time when they're being bombarded with more tech and more apps. Essentially, Apps2Digital can automate and rapidly modernise applications to new environments. And one of today's guests works and helps implement solutions to solve that never-ending issue of understanding the application workloads that are required to give customers the ability to truly manage their application catalogue. But enough from me. Let's bring Citrix and Apps2Digital onto the podcast so we can learn about how they work on their own, but also how they're solving problems at scale with technology to solve problems for their customers. So a big warm welcome to the podcast, guys. But can you tell the listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
My name is Nitin Sharma. I'm actually a senior product marketing manager at Citrix underneath the umbrella of Citrix Workspace services, specifically focusing on app and desktop virtualization.
My name is Nigel Woods. I'm business development manager for Apps2Digital, and I've been a Citrix consultant for the last 22 years and helped form a Citrix Platinum partner in the UK, and then created the European side for FS Logics, which we sold to Microsoft.
Now, I am conscious there's going to be a lot of people tuning in and hearing about Apps2Digital for the very first time. So to begin with, can you just tell me a little bit more about the kind of problems that you're solving with Apps2Digital?
Yeah, sure. So what we've created is an application lifecycle management portal, basically. So what we do is put an agent onto the end user's devices, and then we can gain a lot of information around what those applications can do. So we have a process of discovery where we can discover the resources used, what applications are used, who are using them, and then we can assess and create an automated deployment of many of these applications to any sort of cloud-based or physical desktops that gives you the best opportunity to put the applications into the right place rather than just having one single platform. These days, it's very much a hybrid model of where these applications sit, and we can give you those details in one portal to allow you to give you the information to allow you to put this in the right place at the right time.
And just to bring everyone up to speed from a Citrix standpoint and set that scene, what is Workspace with intelligence, and what does that mean for the average end user that might be listening out there?
Yeah, so we introduced the Citrix Workspace with Intelligence last year. This is sort of an evolution from the Citrix Workspace, which we introduced a couple years ago. Our intent with the Workspace is to kind of deliver that, the sort of workspace for the end users, for that future worker, or that, actually modern worker, to help streamline a lot of things that they do from a day-to-day, making sure that the fact that they're productive, but we also, they get the Citrix administrative tools on the back end, the admins, so they can actually ensure that end users are both productive, but also that they're ensuring that corporate security is maintained.
And enterprises have always had a large number of apps, but that's just increasing year after year. But can you expand on how users interact with a lot of these apps and only utilize certain aspects of the app too?
This is actually kind of helps develop the kind of going into the weeds as far as like why we developed the intelligent workspace. So I like to use the example of like a fax machine, or actually your office printer. Most people, it's a big bulky machine in the office. Most people walk up to that and they just need to do one thing, make a copy. But it does 2,000 different other things, or, I'm sure I'm exaggerating there, but So think about it from the enterprise app. There's a lot of applications out there that these organizations implement, but a specific end user only needs to do one specific thing. Like, for example, we use an application internally that is when I need to log in to request time off, I need to log into the application. I need to go a few different steps to find the actual PTO request form and then request time off. So that whole process just for me to request time off can take about, 2 to 3 minutes versus when we're looking at the intelligent workspace is to give that actionable item for that end user for that specific application activity within the actual Citrix Workspace, the home screen. So when I launch my Citrix Workspace, I can actually just request, time off. We use what's called micro app technology. So basically, you're taking an action within an application and making a little micro app around that. So examples of this is sort of like if you're using Outlook and you wanted to send a calendar invite, instead of having to launch Outlook, you can just schedule or create a calendar invite from your Citrix Workspace home screen. So that's just one aspect of it. That's just the micro app stuff. There's other things that it'll actually come through and give intelligent feeds, things that are outstanding that you need to do when you log in the morning. Like it'll show you like the different meetings that you have, the different, if your a job function requires approving expense reports, it'll show you like these are your outstanding expense reports to approve without having to actually log into that application. This is sort of building on the fact that we've had a number of success on, application and desktop virtualization and delivering, end user productivity with centralized management. We're delivering applications with centralized management. So this is just going beyond that by helping streamline the number of applications in the enterprise and making sure that the end user itself is going to be more productive as these applications start being more and more come to the enterprise.
And listening to you both talk there, I got a great vision of what you're doing and how you're helping businesses. But I'm really interested in exploring how you guys are working together and solving problems together too. So what can Apps2Digital do in, let's say, a Citrix environment, especially in terms of applications? And by that, I mean such as app performance, rationalization, packaging and deploy, etc. Can you expand on that for me, Nigel?
Yeah, sure. So going to Nitin's explanation of micro apps, one of the things we can do is we can look and analyze the SaaS apps, the software as a service apps that are being run at the moment, and then we can understand which portions are being used by how many people in the environments, and then we can start mapping these to which ones could be used as micro apps. We're hoping to go even further and actually be able to develop those micro apps as well. This is sort of as we move forward with the product. But at the moment, we can do that piece. At the moment, we've seen Citrix working, the way they've had to work with this is really to ask and do surveys to find this information out. If we can quantify this automatically, it gives a massive insight into how we can use these micro apps in any environment. So this is not just around Citrix virtual apps and desktops. This is all about the broader aspect of any physical desktop implementation. We see a lot of enterprises where they have just sort of, it could be anything from service desks to call centers where they're very process driven and they're not necessarily where apps and virtual apps and desktops sit. So it's much more around physical desktops. And we can then start using Citrix Workspaces and micro apps to utilize those pieces to solve their problems as well.
And from a Citrix standpoint, how do you see this working with micro apps of common SaaS apps where users can perform tasks of that app specific to their role?
So the micro app technology, when it comes to SaaS, it's very similar to what it's not just limited to just Windows or Linux-based published applications for customers that are out there using Citrix. So it's actually being extended over to SaaS applications too. And we're seeing a lot more SaaS applications come into the actual workplace as more and more organizations or software companies are transitioning over to SaaS models. So from there, like there's certain things that when you're looking at SaaS applications that you can maybe determine how a specific end user is using that SaaS application, right? So I guess a good example would be like a CRM software, like a SaaS software. I would think about Salesforce at the top of my head. There's various ways to use Salesforce. Different like users use it very differently. So it's sort of like, let's say if I'm a salesperson, I can actually go through and if I continuously keep, maybe creating new leads or creating new sales opportunities, which is like a sales record, it can maybe determine that that's my main actionable item. And then that would be something that the admin can develop a little micro app for. So they can actually just, let's say when they log into their workspace, instead of having to launch and going into the actual full on application, they can actually just click that create new opportunity record. It'll be like a little icon on their Citrix Workspace, and they can click that and they'll be able to create that new opportunity record. So it saves them time without having to log in. And again, it may sound very trivial when we're saying that we're reducing the amount of time that they spend within an application and switching back and forth between apps and stuff. But McKinsey's done analysis on it, and we've seen that the fact that these little micro activities, if you were to streamline them, can actually help not only end user be productive, but also improve the overall employee experience, but also the revenue goals of the organization too, right? If employees are more productive, they can do more activities within a certain time frame, which improves overall outcomes.
And Nigel, how are your customers leveraging Apps2Digital to provide those insights to admins on the key utilization of apps and, of course, the tasks users perform within those apps? Yeah,
so going back to Nitin's piece first, the fact that people are using these micro apps is going to be a significant saving in resources as well, performance. One of the challenges that we're seeing with SaaS apps is the actual performance of the internet browser that's associated with it. I quite often will see a Chrome browser using 2 gig of memory and 15% of the processor time, just one SaaS app for one person. So if we can stop them from coming through that internet browser and using Workspace, then there's a significant saving in the amount of resources used, both from a physical desktop and a virtual desktop performance base, which then allows us to streamline what we're delivering, and improve the overall performance as well as the ability for a user to do his job, but the actual performance of the system as well. And one of the key things for us is that we're not just looking at these SaaS apps, we're looking at any application. We want to be able to take any of those applications, understand the resources needed, and then be able to appropriately size the endpoint to what's required for those users.
And Nigel, one concept that does fascinate me, I recently read about your passion for evergreen computing. Do you mind if I just ask you to expand on that?
One of the things that we find is as we go through this process of discovery, assess, package, and deliver, up till now, what we've done is we've done this sort of every 5 or 6 years. We go back and we rediscover, we reassess, repackage, redeliver. Essentially, when a new OS comes out, we repackage. That's changed. So evergreen computing is all about this semi-annual support channel. Applications and particularly the operating system. So Microsoft and Citrix are now having a semi-annual channel, which every 12 to 18 months, you have to basically either upgrade or rebuild to keep into support. And if you don't do that, then you become out of support of one of these companies. So as we go through this application lifecycle management, we're not just going through this once every 6 years. We're going to have to recycle every probably 8 to 12 months to get a new image in to start again. So with Apps2Digital, we have that automated. We have the reminders to tell you where you are in this process, so that you can help track as you go through this process to keep that. And that's called Evergreen, and we'll see a lot more of that and hear a lot more of that as we go through this year, I really believe.
And from a disaster recovery standpoint, Citrix supports workloads in multi-clouds. For example, organizations can sometimes have in Azure, some in Google, some AWS. So how does this relationship make that process easier?
Yes, so we're completely multi-cloud. We will deliver to any cloud platform, but more importantly, we can deliver directly into Citrix Cloud. So Citrix Cloud itself could be on any of those platforms, whether that be Azure, Google, Amazon, and we are independent of those, so our portal can communicate with any of them, and we can automatically deploy to those Citrix Clouds. So we can actually say, I would like to have this application, I want to package it, deploy it, and publish it directly into Citrix Cloud, irrespective of which cloud platform that is.
And just to add to that, because of the fact that customers could be running multiple workloads in multi-clouds, our products are designed into, support the ability to be on multi-cloud. So some customers that I've had conversations with are looking into improving disaster recovery. So they may be looking at a hybrid approach, or they may look at, they'll run some workloads on Azure or Google Cloud. In the event that there's maybe an Azure outage, they can switch workloads over to Google Cloud, or it's sort of that multi-cloud, hybrid cloud approach. Can help them maintain business continuity in the event that there's an outage from one vendor to the other and move stuff back and forth.
And looking to the future, what was it excites you about how Citrix and Apps2Digital are ultimately working together? And I'll let you take that one away first, Nigel.
For me, this is the ability to assist in the discovery process. If we can get that discovery process better and more organized, it gives Citrix the ability to reach a larger customer base, particularly on the micro apps piece. I'm really excited about what we can do between us on there. But as a whole, if we can get that desktop analysis piece right, we can make sure that the correct and most appropriate Citrix infrastructure is put for the customers.
Yeah, and I think that sort of information is very important when it comes to helping develop our goals with the Citrix Workspace's intelligence. And again, our intent when we rolled out with that is to ensure it's basically to change the way people work, and sort of give them the optimized way of working compared to how they may be used to working, which could be that switching between apps and having to log in multiple times. So if we were able to get more data as far as how users are actually using or working on specific endpoints, that could help, translate that information back into the actual workspace and then help us develop, a little bit more of a streamlined workflow for that end user. So we're going forward, we're making sure the end users are productive when they're, as more and more technology starts entering the enterprise and more apps start entering the enterprise and they keep kind of coming in and ensuring that, we're giving organizations and administrators as well as end users a solution that actually helps them become productive without, instead of hindering it.
And just for everyone listening, I'm conscious we've covered a lot of ground today, equally about Citrix and Apps2Digital and how you're working together. So for everyone listening, how can they find out more information about Citrix and Apps2Digital?
So from Apps2Digital perspective, if you go to flexible.com/Apps2Digital, all the details are on there.
Yeah, and for Citrix, you can actually just go to citrix.com/workspace.
So I love how Citrix and Apps2Digital are solving problems in your own right, but it's particularly exciting to hear how you're working together with this almost proactive approach to the challenges that are coming with this onslaught of apps and technology that are continuously entering the enterprise space at the moment. So a huge thank you for coming on and sharing your story of how you're working together. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So many big talking points there from the vision that Citrix and Apps2Digital share and how they're making a difference in building this future of work together. But I would love to hear your thoughts on today's conversation. Do you have any examples of companies working together for the greater good rather than working in silos or against each other? This is a subject that I'm fascinated by, and I always say at the end of every episode that technology works best when it brings people together. So please, let me know your thoughts. Email me directly, techblogwriter@outlook.com. You can get me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, just by looking for me at Neil C. Hughes. If you go to techblogwriter.co.uk/apps2digital, you'll find today's podcast episode. But that's it for today's episode. A big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.